Beautiful. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a Sharewise webinar. Once again, we've got the great President and CEO, Sam Spring, joining us today to speak about Kincora Copper a bit more. And more or less, I know there's been a few announcements this week, but just for the viewers that don't really know much about you, Sam, what got you started and more or less what's the experience that you have behind you at the moment?
Yeah, I guess, thank you, Lachlan, for the opportunity. My background, I guess, isn't originally in the exploration sector. Chartered accountant, CFA, was working for a UK stockbroker when one of our clients actually approached us with the flagship asset that's now in the Mongolian portfolio that we've just done a deal for this week. We had an offer for the company. I was brought in to help run an exit process for those Mongolian assets. And I guess there's been a bit of a journey, as is often the case with exploration projects, and we've ended up focusing in our efforts in New South Wales. We've got a very strong technical team and been sort of responsible for helping drive that strategy and building that team. But with all these things, it quite often takes years of foundations to be an overnight success.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like definitely with the announcements and partnerships that we're seeming to get along the way, it sounds like tides are definitely turning and looking for a bit of a plan going forward. I imagine shareholders and yourself are pretty excited.
We are. I guess 2023, the market's turned and we've tried to change strategy to reflect that and reflect the assets that we've got. Looking to bring asset partners in, and obviously those things don't happen straight away, and we'll walk through that in the deck and Q&A. But we're entering that really sort of exciting phase of how do you add value in our sector? And it's, in our mind, doing deals and it's drilling. It's trying to find the next big copper gold discovery. And we've gone from a period where we haven't drilled for 12 months to now ramping up and shareholders getting exposure to this partner-funded drilling campaign. So it's coming out of that sort of boring phase, which I think is reflected in our valuation, into a period where there's lots of news flow and a lot of catalysts to own the stock with value triggers coming up. So very timely to have us on, and thanks for the opportunity with Sharewise.
No, absolutely. Well, members and guests, if this is your first time attending one of our webinars, we do have a presentation that we'll go through, but we'll have the opportunity for a Q&A at the end for about 15 minutes. If you do have any questions, please submit, but we won't answer them until the very end. So with that, Sam, we might let you get started with your presentation. I think a few of these new investors are very interested to hear what you have to say today.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Lachlan, for the intro. And I guess the presentation's hopefully up on the screen. I'll run through it. I won't spend too much time with the usual cautionary disclaimers. This should be up on the ASX and TSX-V platforms. Kincora is dual listed on the Venture Exchange in Canada and dual listed on the ASX when our focus really pivoted to the central west of New South Wales, which is our core project portfolio. And I guess what are we trying to do? We're trying to add value through doing deals, securing partner funding, and ultimately making a big discovery. And that's where within the resource sector, you create the greatest value within the whole value chain. And our focus in our speciality really is with copper and gold. Really interesting outlook for both of those commodities. Increasingly difficult to find commodity exposure for those metals in good jurisdictions. And we're very comfortable operating in the central west New South Wales. I guess a key element with any resource play, particularly at the exploration stage, is the team. We've got really a strong technical team supported by a very good board. We'll walk through that in this deck. We've already got some resource inventory in Mongolia. There's 400,000 ounces of gold, 400,000 tonnes of copper in a JORC resource. But across all our projects, there's scope for tier one targets and new discoveries. And again, what we're looking for isn't something that's a percentage return, it's a multiple return, or it's still at that risk capital stage, but we've got a good foundation with the resource inventory and the targets that we've got. As Lachlan sort of touched on, a key theme that you'll hear from us today is deals and partnerships. We've recently done 4 partnership deals that unlock up to $60 million worth of multi-year partner funding. And when you're looking for big scalable projects, how do you fund them, particularly from a micro cap perspective? And again, the markets have changed and we've changed our strategy accordingly to try and reflect that in the portfolio that we've got. And catalysts, obviously, why own the stock today? Why, in what's still a relatively difficult market, is Kincora what we think one of the few opportunities that really stands out? And I think it's because we've done that hard work over that 12 months, bringing these partners in, doing these deals. And we've got a number of value catalysts from drilling that's already wheels in motion, and we'll walk through that again today, but also some further deals that we're working on, and we'll overlay that strategy of what we're trying to achieve. So a bit of a corporate snapshot, about 12 million market cap, cash reported balance in our quarterly out this morning of a bit over $1 million Aussie. Through the deal that we announced on Monday with Woomera Mining, we've got share exposure to them. We're now Woomera's largest shareholder through doing this deal in Mongolia. The board and I guess major shareholders have a fair stake in the company. 45% of the register is represented by insiders. The top 10 shareholders own 60%. And all board and management are pretty significant shareholders and have remuneration structures aligned with shares as well as cash. So I guess we're trying to achieve alignment, not just through options. But the names there are pretty important. They're these 4 deals that recently we've achieved that unlock up to $60 million worth of partner funding. AngloGold Ashanti's the 4th largest gold producer by production. They've recently got involved with us with our Nyngan and Nevertire projects. We had a release out only yesterday on what those plans are for our first drilling campaign. Again, we'll touch on that. Fleet Space is a new venture capital startup out of Adelaide that, according to the AFR, last year was Australia's fastest growing VC company. They're into space and Earth exploration. We've done a quite innovative exploration partnership with them for some geophysics, and that's rolling out and ongoing as we speak at our Nyngan project. Earth AI is a partner at our Kundumble project. As their name suggests, they're an AI group. They've got an exploration alliance where they're the operator at our Kundumble project. They effectively generate these targets and then fund testing them, and they only get something in terms of economic exposure if they make a new technical discovery, a qualifying interval. So for us, we retain 100% while Earth AI go on and do these drilling and work programs to refine these targets. And then the most recent deal that we announced only earlier this week was with Woomera Mining for our Mongolian project portfolio. Drilling expected to start there in the next quarter. So again, setting the foundations for a pretty exciting period for the company going forward. And I guess bearing in mind that there are more deals that we've got wheels in motion for in the background.
Absolutely.
So the team, strong board, as mentioned, all shareholders and have skin in the game. Cameron McRae, 28 years with Rio Tinto, led the development cycle in 4 countries, 3 different continents with Rio Tinto. His last role with them was being president of the Oyu Tolgoi copper project in Mongolia, which is on track to be the world's 4th biggest copper mine in the world. And under Cameron's wash, he spent and invested $6 billion. John Holliday, our technical director and chair of our technical committee. Really, if you're looking for knowledge in New South Wales porphyries, John's is probably the leading expert. He was heavily involved with the origination of Cadia, led the discovery phases and management of that project, really knows New South Wales porphyries like the back of his hand. Luke Murray represents our 2nd largest shareholder, the Bloomfield Group, that owns about 13% of the company. Bloomfield's a private family office with mining interests in New South Wales, a very good supportive group that's been on the register for a period of time. Jeremy Robinson, I should mention, came on our board late last year. He's founder and CEO of RareX, who's our largest shareholder. Jeremy's quite hands-on with the fundraising business development side of the business. So there's no passengers here, all very hands-on and aligned with shareholders. So the technical team, I guess, really emphasising this being an exploration company. It's quite often the same analogy with sporting success. It's the repeat offenders that keep seeming to know what to do at the critical times to win the prizes. We think that we've really got an industry-leading technical team. We've touched on John there. He's backed up by Peter Lehman. Peter's been involved with a number of very big discoveries internationally, and the two of them are really the brains trust for driving the exploration strategy going forward. What are we looking for? We're basically looking for new, very significant copper discoveries, copper porphyry districts. And why that commodity specifically? Well, it's the technical expertise that John and Peter have got. But in terms of the hard rock space, it's probably one of the largest prizes that you can have. A gold-rich copper porphyry is generally worth billions of dollars. And that has been emphasised recently in the Central Andes, a district that's emerging called the Vicuña district. In the last month, you had BHP with Lundin Mining come in and effectively do a deal that secured 4 pre-development copper porphyry discoveries in what is emerging as a really important new district. There was a company called NGX that back in the day held those 4 properties. Its market cap was 40 million Canadian. That transaction value only in the last month from BHP and the Lundins valued those 4 projects at over 8 billion Canadian. So you've seen 200-time uplift in value. Obviously, that's a real extreme case, but that's what we're looking for is new district scale opportunities, something that will move the needle within the global copper market. To help put New South Wales into perspective, which is on the left-hand side, the Macquarie Arc is where we're focusing our efforts, and our licences are outlined in red. That's the Vicuña district on the right. You can see it being a continuation of a couple of well-known belts up in the Central Andes, 4,000, 5,000 metres altitude. Those 4 pre-development projects I mentioned sit in this insert. And within that same scale, both the insert and the belt scale is where we're focusing in our efforts with Anglo Gold Ashanti, with just our Nyngan, that's the northern part of our Nyngan project, the Ace of Spades southwest target. Yesterday, we announced what our initial drilling program would be in that part of the world that kicks off next month. I should mention that Anglo Gold Ashanti's also got an earn-in deal with a Canadian company called Inflection Resources, which has really focused its efforts on our licence boundary with the Duck Creek project just north of that. They've also had some pretty good exploration success only in the last month. But what Anglo Gold Ashanti, Inflection, Kincora are looking for in that part of the northern belt, which is, I guess, this area that's got the black shadow in it, is something that is the biggest part of the Macquarie Arc. To the south, where you don't have the shadow, you've got 160 million ounces gold equivalent in relatively mature exploration settings that outcrop or subcrop. Basically, the Macquarie Arc comes pretty much to surface. In these areas that have the shadow, you go under post-mineral cover. It's a shallow blanket initially, and it goes up to 200-300 metres as you go further north. What the magnetics does, which maps these volcanic arcs, is show that potentially the biggest part of the Macquarie Arc sits up to the north and is not explored. So I guess if you look at this, you've got Anglo Gold Ashanti that's got over 8,000 square kilometres with Inflection and Kincora, looking for a new district, looking for something like Vicuña. At the same time, Kincora's also got some very prospective ground further to the south, and we'll touch on that as well, where we've been doing a lot of work. But really, the majority of our drilling between now and the end of year will be up in that northern part of the belt with our partner, Anglo Gold Ashanti. So here is our licence portfolio. I guess Cadia is the biggest mine in this region, which was, I guess, the focus of Newmont's acquisition of Newcrest last year. It's still one of Australia's biggest gold mines at a negative operating cost. You've got North Parkes, which was the focus of Evolution buying that asset from CMOC last year for a $1 billion plus acquisition price on a 100% basis. You've got Cal that was bought by Evolution from Barrick a few years ago and is Evolution Mining's flagship asset. And I guess the key point here is it's a mining culture district. You've got a number of world-class operations. You've got a really big new discovery with Alkane's Boda, which is the best greenfield discovery in the belt in the last 20 years. And it again helps provide that proof of concept that this is a world-class terrain, and these existing projects where we've got district scale positions really are prospective. And within this area, just at the exploration space, you've seen 4 transactions from majors with juniors that support up to $200 million worth of exploration expenditure taking place. So from an M&A perspective, from a mining perspective, from an exploration perspective, this is probably Australia's leading copper gold district, and on a global scale, it's right up there in terms of attractiveness. So I guess with that, I'll start moving into a little bit more detail. With Mongolia, I should mention we just earlier this week did that deal with Woomera Mining to find a new home for that project portfolio. As mentioned, that's what attracted me to the company when the company back then drilled 1,000 metres of good copper. There were 37 metres of over 1% copper equivalent within that. It's hard for a junior with our scale to have 2 district scale portfolios and do both justice. Over the last period of time, with the focus being on New South Wales, under a very capital constrained manner, Kincora has been advancing the Bronze Fox project. We've secured a mining licence. We've got a maiden JORC resource, an updated exploration target. We've got a new geological model for the Bronze Fox intrusive complex where the resource is. We found what we think is a new intrusive complex that's never been drilled called Shooteen North that we think is relating to the biggest intrusive complex in the whole of the Gobi. When you look at this district, you've got Oyu Tolgoi, which is going to be the world's 4th biggest copper mine by 2030 for multiple generations. You've got the Seven Savaga project that's privately owned and in construction at the moment. You've got Xanadu's Karmatai project that has a final investment decision before end of year in partnership with Xijing Mining. And Bronze Fox is the 4th big district in this belt, but it's had the least amount of exploration relative to those peers. But it's really got the biggest footprint in terms of mineralised footprint at surface and scope for something potentially world-class. So with Kincora's focus on New South Wales, what we've really looked to do is partner up with a motivated, funded group, and Woomera, we feel, is very much that. They were able to raise some money only last week. They're looking to be drilling next month, and I think a lot of the foundations of what Kincora set up, they're inheriting, including our team and our targets, our permits, and are able to get on and really hit that project pretty hard with a dedicated shareholder base that can really drive some significant value, we feel. So again, that's part of this partnership model. And when we come back to, say, this district, what Kincora has tried to do is bring in partners for our non-core projects, our earlier stage, higher risk projects. When we have a look at this area, this belt, Trundle, we've drilled 20,000 metres there since we've entered New South Wales. We know there's a big mineralised system. We think it's part of the North Parkes system. North Parkes has made 22 discoveries, 9 of them are economic or been mines. We've found 3 new discoveries at Trundle and have a number of walk-up targets. And with exploration, it is a numbers game. Yeah. And we're keen to come back and retain our flagship projects like Trundle, like Fairholme. Fairholme is a continuation of the Cow intrusive system. It's on the Cow block, or on the structural trend from the Gold Corridor that hosts Evolution's flagship project. And again, big mineralised system. It's very rare for a junior to have 1, let alone 2 brownfield projects in the shadow of headframes from existing world-class mines. So what we've tried to do is bring in partners for those earlier stage projects in New South Wales and retain our core flagship projects and not sell the farm in the weaker market conditions that we've seen in the last 12 months, but really set the foundations for the company being able to ramp up drilling again. And I think we've been able to achieve that. So I guess try to allow a fair bit of time for Q&A. I'll bring it back to what is the opportunity. Significant leverage to copper and gold. All these projects that we retain have got tier 1 exploration upside. We've got an existing resource in Mongolia, which is pretty significant, and there's some pretty easy wins, we feel, with drilling that Woomera is about to do. We've got a really strong technical team with an outstanding track record of generating projects and those projects leading to significant discoveries. We're in 2 belts that are really emerging in terms of M&A hotspots and major frontiers for copper exploration. When you have a look at the southern Gobi there in Mongolia, three projects that I mentioned get into peak run rates. New South Wales, as mentioned, is Australia's leading copper gold district. And there's been plenty of activity. So we've got the right projects in the right locations, in the right belts, and there's a significant number of exploration peer groups that give, I guess, a lot of value precedents that, I guess, provide a really attractive point for shareholders to consider Kincora. And why consider us now? It's because we've got deals that have taken place that have unlocked that partner funding. There's more deals that we're looking to do, and that's important because that provides technical endorsement for investors, but it also reduces dilution risk and provides the ability to give these big projects the capital that they need. So a hybrid approach to generating value, both from doing deals, drilling, and I think we're at a pretty exciting phase for both of that. As touched on, we're expecting to have Kincora shareholders having exposure to 10,000 metres of partner-funded drilling in the next 6 months, and then looking to ramp that up to circa 30,000 metres plus on an annual basis thereafter. So again, that provides a significant amount of leverage to exploration success, being in a pretty good commodity mix of copper and gold. So I guess, Lachlan, I'll try and leave the presentation there and open up the floor for any Q&As that the guys might have that are online.
Absolutely, absolutely. I will say fantastic presentation. Thank you for doing that. I think just initially from a few questions that have come through as well, it's about milestones and more or less the pathway forward. What are the main points that over the next 6 months that shareholders should be looking forward towards?
Yeah, and it's I guess the fruits of that sort of deals and partnerships that we've just done. So Earth AI is drilling 2 holes at Kundumble. We think they're operating the project, but we believe they're coming back and shortly drilling a 3rd hole as part of that program, just waiting for winter crops to come off.
Yeah.
It's keeping an eye out for Earth AI's drilling results at Kundumble. Fleet Space is on the ground doing work at the moment for this geophysical survey up at the northern part of our Ningen project. That survey should conclude within the next month and have initial results. Pretty much within that period, we should have drilling ramping up with Anglo Gold Ashanti at the Ningen project. And as sort of touched on this slide, the Ace of Spades and the Southwest Target are really big targets. What we're looking to confirm with a bit of luck there is a new district and not just one discovery, is that scope of that potential. So I guess they're the immediate programs in New South Wales. Then in Mongolia, you've got Woomera that's looking to kick off drilling as early as next month. So 10,000 metres of drilling in the next 6 months, we're expecting Kincora shareholders to have exposure to, just from the deals that we've already done. And I should say there's some more ground that we're expecting to be able to sort of announce pretty shortly, and some further transactions we're working on. So I guess in terms of milestones, it's drilling and it's more deals.
Okay, so with the deals and partnerships, what's the main strategy of who we're targeting? Like, is there a criteria that we're mainly looking at with what we're targeting, or what's the purpose there?
Well, yeah, and there has been a bit of a specific focus of what's core and what's non-core. What we've been trying to do is find partners to provide capital and provide technical endorsement for our earlier stage, higher risk projects that we felt that in this market we were getting no value for. And we've tried to retain our flagship, more advanced projects like the Trundles, like the Fairholmes, like Condobolin, where we drilled last year and had some good results. But at that stage, the market just wasn't interested given sentiment. We've tried to retain those projects, and by doing those earlier stage project deals, that hopefully provides value parameters for those more advanced projects and helps rebuild, I guess, the company from a news flow and drilling perspective. So there has been a real sort of focus there, Lachlan, of we wouldn't say yes or no to any assets not being dealt, but it's on what terms and what structures and with what partners. And we've been trying to systematically work out how do we incrementally build up the best case to maximise the value from those more advanced, more attractive brownfield projects that don't have that same level of risk.
Absolutely. And so on more of a cash basis, what's the runway looking like at the moment? How long do we have?
Yeah, it's a key question with any explorer. And I guess the way to try and frame that is this morning in our quarterly, we announced we had 940,000 Canadian at the end of 30 June. That's a bit over 1 million Aussie. For the 6 months to 30 June, we'd spent about 590,000. So I guess that gives you a reasonable feel of what a 6 month sort of runway is. What I guess is important to flag is going forward, that cash burn will be different because we've done the deal with Mongolia. Woomera is now on the hook for the overheads, the exploration costs. So that changes our cash burn profile. And one thing that is unique, which is, I guess, one of the attractiveness of the partner model with an earning model with a group like, say, Anglo Gold Ashanti, is we're now getting a management fee for operating that project at Nyngan, where we're looking to drill those 6 to 8 intrusive complexes before the end of the year. So say that if that program was, say, $2 million, we get a 10% management fee, so $200,000 that comes in and helps cover those sort of corporate costs. The direct costs of the exploration program and the licenses and the team and the drilling, that all gets absorbed by AGA from the earn-in, but obviously the management fee is something that's quite attractive because that helps reduce dilution at the top co and provide a runway that's longer for that existing cash balance. So I guess there's a couple of sort of important dynamics, and I guess let's see what a couple of these other corporate deals that we're working on might be able to unlock as well.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so back to more of the core original drills of Trundle and Fairholme. What's the follow-up plan with those? When do we expect to get back into that? I know you said we're waiting for the winter crop to come through and move on, but when can we expect to see that up and running again?
Yeah, and even Condobolin, like we had some really good results late last year. You've seen that Cobar Super Basin have a lot of interest, with Talisman having some good results, metals acquisitions, dual listing on the ASX, and probably the real standout is Australian Gold and Copper with its Achilles discovery. And you look at what we had at Condo, and we had some really good results last year, and they certainly deserve to be followed up, similar to Trundle and Fairholme. And that's why we've retained those assets and looked to bring in partners for those earlier stage projects. I guess we're not in a rush to get back and drilling. I guess going through and ramping up exploration with these partner funded programs is the initial focus. There are some conversations taking place with potential earn-in partners for those, I guess, projects that we just touched on. But I guess we're not in a rush because we're ramping up from no drilling over 12 months to now sort of 10,000 metres before the end of the year, and we're expecting sort of 30,000 next year as well, just on what we've got. So, yeah, I guess good question, but I guess we're waiting for the right time with those projects, because we drilled Trundle last year, spent $1 million, got some reasonable results, and some pretty good results actually, and we weren't getting that reward in the market. So it's we're just taking our time.
Well, we might just ask one last question before we start to wrap things up, but more or less, what's the status with the Earth AI's drilling at
Cundumble, yeah. It's a bit of a mouthful, that one.
Yeah, it is.
Cundumble's this project out on the eastern belt, the Molong belt. They're the operator there, and it's been really interesting to see how they've used their AI process. So Mitsubishi previously drilled at Cundumble in the northern part and the southern part of the license. We knew there were intrusions there. You can see on the magnetics it sits in the volcanic arc, so we're very confident that it's in that same belt of rocks that hosts Boda and Cadia. Earth AI ran their AI machine learning models. They identified an area of interest in the central part of the license that had never really been properly explored. They walked that, they identified a hydrothermal breccia, and what's interesting about that is that's a key geological marker at Boda Kaiser and where the high-grade gold generally kicks in. So they did some further work, mapped out a sort of 2K geochem anomaly, and they're going in and drilling these initial 2 holes. We believe they've completed, and they're looking at coming back after the winter crops and doing some more. As the operator, we find out once they've completed that program what the results of that program is and what they want to do next. So we're hoping and expecting those winter crops are coming out relatively soon. They're just doing some drilling with another Australian-listed junior, Legacy Minerals, where they've made a new discovery with Legacy, and I'd expect that sort of once that program's done, they'll come back and shortly have another go at Condumble. But it's an interesting relationship that they only end up with an NSR, an economic exposure to the project, if they make a new discovery. So Kincora retains 100%. So it's one to keep an eye on, but as the non-operator, it's a bit of an anomaly within the rest of the portfolio.
Well, Sam, with a very experienced board and more or less some great projects to look forward towards and milestones coming up, what are your final comments for new investors and current investors about Kincora at the moment?
Well, I think we've tried to adjust the model, the business model, and differentiate ourselves from most explorers by having this partnership approach and retaining the core projects. Those 4 deals are now starting to bear active programs, and there's various catalysts from those programs to keep an eye out for. But obviously, we're not finished with sort of monetizing and doing deals and bringing in partners for the rest of the project portfolio. We're not looking to warehouse projects and licenses. We still see that there's opportunities to pick up new ground. The Wongarbin project that you can see there, we only secured in June. We think it's a real standout. So there's more deals that I think you'd like to see come through in the near and medium term. So I guess, Lachlan, in terms of investors and shareholders, keep an eye out for further deal flow and the results of the partner funding programs that are kicking off.
Absolutely, absolutely. We'll make sure to watch out for those announcements as they come through. But members and guests, if you haven't had a chance to watch the whole webinar, that's okay. This will be posted up online and on our YouTube, so you'll be able to see it from start to finish. And if they have any questions, Sam, is there somewhere they could direct those via email, or what's the best way to get through?
Yeah, and I should put up the last slide here. My email address number there. Please, any shareholders who are keen to ask more questions, please reach out.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you very much for taking your time out today and having a great chat with us, Sam. I look very much forward to these announcements coming out. And apart from that, we might say goodbye to our members and guests today. So thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lachlan.
Thank you.